welcome back to Invisible Not Broken. And just to prove to all of you, I do not do this for altruism. I just like lightly kidnap people that I enjoy talking to. That's this. I got to interview Lake a while ago. I can't remember if that episode has aired yet or not, but we had way too much fun. So now I'm like light kidnapping. I don't live in the same state, so I can't do anything dangerous. But today we get to talk about access in school, which you are much closer to that experience than I am, but we have plenty to talk about.
Absolutely. I mean, right now I am starting classes again for the new semester next week.
Oh my
So,
God.
yeah, I'm like, winter break's almost over, which is insane. But yeah, and then like just getting everything settled in so that we can get the ball rolling with that. Like, I had to do my access meeting a few weeks ago and we had to discuss like my accommodations because that has to be refreshed every semester.
That doesn't seem like an exhausting experience. So, talk to me about what that looks like. Every semester you have to physically go there, right? You can't do this on Zoom.
So luckily my school does allow me to do it by Zoom. I think
Yay!
some don't, but mine does. I go to like a small community college, so they're a little bit easier going than like I have a friend who she lives in another state and goes to another community college and they are so much stricter about asking for things for their accommodations. She actually has to get her doctor to note down all of the specific little accommodations, whereas my school is kind of on the opposite side of that spectrum where they just met with me and they're like, okay, what do you need? And I'm like, this, and this. And they're like, okay, cool. Do you want this too? And so, like, they even were offering me more than I was asking for, luckily. Thank you, Chicago.
I'm just amazed, like, at the helpfulness. Is like, I think it is a community college thing because my child goes to community college and has a difficult time moving around. So they offered a golf cart to like anytime, just for free. We'll come and pick the child up at whatever place in campus and then drive child to bus stops to the next class. Like, I'm very impressed with what they've done. But there's also a lot of stuff where they're like, you need to get a actual diagnosis. And for anyone listening, we live in the US. So, and also our ACA credits got removed. Thank you, Republican Congress. And now our insurance has gone through the roof. So you would have to have hundreds of dollars available to go to that appointment and then thousands of dollars for the testing. And that's if and when you can actually get someone. Because that's a big argument why we don't want socialized medicine is it will take months. Do you people in the United States understand? It will take you months to get that appointment. Yeah, we do understand
Surprise.
because we're paying thousands of dollars a year. And I
Surprise
had
in
to wait
9 months
three
for a
years.
specialist.
3 years. I waited 3 years for a doctor's appointment once.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just recently, just last year, spent 9 months waiting to see a specialist. And then when I got there finally, I was treated terribly by this doctor. And so, like, and then I still had to pay for the appointment. And so it's like, I'm like, and I've spoken to people in other countries, and a lot of them are actually surprised by our wait times, depending on what country they're from. Like, it's kind of insane and ridiculous.
And if you're talking about something like ADHD or ADD or autism, that's a psychiatrist that's going to be diagnosing you. There are entire states in the United States right now that only have one psychiatrist in the entire state. So these accommodations where you have to have a diagnosis and where they're like, you're all like diagnosing yourselves on TikTok, not my favorite thing either. But what other options do we actually have? And then we have to get transportation to those doctor's appointments. So like when they're requiring this, and it's understandable, we do need to have some sort of, or, we could just actually go universal design on education and give everyone those accommodations.
I mean, it would be so nice if we could just like make it a simple like, and of course there's always going to be things that you can't fully accommodate for, but it would be nice if we would just make it to where people would have whatever accommodations they needed. Like, even with my school being fairly lenient on providing those accommodations and being pretty easygoing about it, I still had to submit paperwork showing proof of diagnosis. And so with my school, the way that it went was I had to track down the information for the access center with my school and like the accessibility group that they have there. And then I had to set an appointment with them. And when I was setting the appointment, I had to detail what my needs were, what my difficulties were, and like put that into my own description. And then I also had to submit some kind of paperwork showing on file that I had seen a doctor for my disability.
That's
And
a
like,
that's a lot of hoops.
absolutely. And that's like a lot to do when you're tired. And then I had to arrange to like set this appointment around my work schedule. And like right now I'm on a leave, but like at the time when I set the appointment, I was working my normal schedule and I had to like figure out when I could get around my regular job to go to this to do this meeting, which was over
Mhm.
Zoom, luckily. But I still had to find the time to do a Zoom meeting. And there was no, it would be nice if we could just select, like, hey, I need this, this, and this accommodation, or make some kind of opt out situation.
Yeah.
And everyone's just automatically opted in um, instead of making it just this whole complicated process. But people are so concerned about, "Oh, but what if someone uses something and they don't need it?"
That's by the way, oh my God. There's a cat walking across, so feel free to like move over to YouTube if you can and see the very chonky, very, very cute cat here. You just stumbled on why this country bites so hard. And that is we would rather torture thousands of people, completely torment them because of the risk that maybe two or three of them don't absolutely. Oh my God, I'm getting side eyed. I feel like I'm being judged by this cat right now. Sorry, I'm not as eloquent as I'd like to be. I did have coffee, but man, I'm getting judged for my lack of eloquence here. But it's that whole idea of someone somewhere might not absolutely need this, so we're going to torture everyone unless it's billionaires, in which case we should absolutely give them everything, even though there's the off chance that only one or two of them will use it to help others. Like, it's amazing to me how quickly this welfare queen thing switches so fast when it's people with a lot of money. All of a sudden,
I
all
mean,
the rules just reverse. Like, go ahead and use them. Like, look
yeah.
at Elon, look at all of them, like, wiping their noses before conferences, look at them, like, drinking very clear liquid that is absolutely not water. Watch that go down as they're screaming that those of us who are in agonizing pain cannot access a lot of our meds should be tested every month, just in case. We might be getting a little bit of happiness with our meds.
Like, oh, how dare. Like, I mean, let's be
Drug
honest
tests for
here.
Congress.
All praise go to Elon, obviously. Like,
Obvious, our dear overlord, who really
yes.
understands the Roman Empire.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Absolute, like, look, he's a historian, man.
That he is. He's really into history. And
Very.
yeah,
You
and
just
we
don't
just
understand.
love
We are
that
not
for
on the
him.
frequency. We don't understand the frequency
No,
or the genius.
us
Because sometimes when you're
simpletons.
so smart, you just end up sounding stupid. Like it's just sort of Oberon. No, now I sound stupid. The snake eating its tail. Like eventually, that genius just comes back right around and chokes you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm from an area where engineering and space are really big industries. And so where I'm from, unfortunately, Elon is like a pretty big name in my hometown, and like there's so many people
Are
who
you
are
a
like,
Texas person?
no, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, I
This could be one or the
escaped.
other. It's just gonna be one or the other. There's different levels of what the hell.
I escaped. I fled.
Congratulations, man.
We love Chicago.
I bet. I bet. I got to actually meet Elon Musk once, which is like
I'm
the
sorry for your
weirdest,
loss.
like, right? The loss of all of my innocence right there. That was a weird experience, may I tell you. But yeah, I'm from the Silicon Valley. Like I worked there for years. I've been right there. While I was there when Facebook had their offices in Palo Alto on the main avenue. Like I used to stop off to like have lunch with my friends at like when Facebook was just in this little tiny like one floor of the building. It was weird to grow up like that. But back to like the whole access in schools. we're seeing this weird thing about testing. You have to quantify like what you need, and I feel like in the universities they're so much stricter than at community colleges because I get to interview people all over the world. And right before COVID happened, like I think I'd done the interview 6 months, it was like 2019, 6 months before, and I was talking to this girl who had gotten into her dream school. I forget which one it was, but it was in like the Northeast,
Mhm.
and the snow was happening, and they were not like shoveling the walkways enough, and she couldn't get to classes. So like, well, thanks for all of your money, but you're just going to have to go because you can't get to your classes in time. And she was like, is there some way we can do video? Is there some way we can, and no, that we could never have video education. That would just be not a thing. So she spent tens of thousands of dollars for that semester to go. And then they're like, yeah, I guess you just can't because you're not able to get here.
And like, it's so interesting how during the pandemic, well, we're still in it, but at the start of it,
Yeah.
when everyone believed it was real and not just people with brains, then like we had all of a sudden it was doable to send everybody to do work from home, to do class from home, to be able to have these options when the pre-disabled folks suddenly were affected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so access to
Capitalism.
education, absolutely. Like access to education is just like exactly like they don't want to give access if they don't have to. Then they want to blame those who haven't been able to access it for their own demise kind of. And it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. There's no right move. And then the number of people I know who can't even make use of their degree regardless of what they went to school for. I
Yeah.
mean, I grew up being told go to school for tech, and I didn't want to. I was too stubborn. I never went for that. And at this point, I'm kind of glad that I didn't because
Oh my God.
oh my goodness. My parents were so obsessed with like that's going to be the big thing. You've got to go for tech, and
Hmm.
I knew how to make the printer work, so clearly I should be head of
You
IT.
were, your fate was sealed. Like you might as well have
Yeah,
pulled a sword out of that printer. You are now definitely the
absolutely.
person.
And so it was just a matter of like, I had to be like, I would consistently, I actually made a video about it a few months ago, kind of just goofing around. And I was like, POV, you're back in high school and you got the printer to work once. And I was like mimicking my mother, who quite literally one time came down to my room, was like, hey, my computer's not working. Can you get it fixing? Can you fix it? And I was like, sure. I restarted the computer.
Ah,
And then she leaves the room going, you have a gift and you're spoiling it.
boiling it.
Yes.
How per se were you?
Because I didn't want to go to school for IT.
How could you, leaving all of that wonderful money on the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, the joke in our house is my husband actually works in IT. He hates technology, like more than anyone I've ever met. Like he hates it. I'm the one who fixes everything in the house for like tech. Like he's like looking at his like iPhone 8 going, I don't know. What do I do here, honey? So back to the original discussion. I'm Gen X. So when I was growing up, we actually had coding classes. We were the first like group that got to learn coding, and I remember like all the conversations around what you needed to be when you grew up so that you could support yourself, because like first generation of girls who were told you're going to college and you're going to work, you're also going to take care of the kids in the house too, just letting you know. Like seriously, the fuck over that my generation got on like you're going to still do all the work of a stay-at-home mom while killing it as a CEO, just letting you know, ladies,
You've got to do it all. You've got to be
all
the
of it.
every woman.
And you better be like the like biggest porn star in bed. You've got to be the sweetest as pie, like best neighbor, daughter, wife, mother,
And you
but
better
you
go to
also should be
church
a
and
size
pray on
zero.
Sunday.
Size zero. Also, like you have to be like rail thin, and it just happens naturally. You haven't even given it an ounce of thought, not 1 ounce
Well,
of,
you
of
can't be doing the
consideration.
drugs that the housewives were doing in the
I
60s.
mean, we really got fucked. May I just tell you, like Gen X, we were screwed right from the start. Like it was bad. But it was like we were the first generation that were told, like, you are absolutely getting a job. You are absolutely going to work. You're absolutely going to get an education. And I was told my parents did something very similar, but as teaching. You will be a teacher. You may not go to school for art. You may not go to school for advertising. Those are I'm fascinated by advertising and art. But my parents were like, advertising is the ultimate evil. We'll disown you if you go for, there's a lot of threats for disowning. There's like piercings, tattoos, who I dated. There was a lot of you will be disowned. This was almost a comical level threat that happened daily. But as you were going to be a teacher. And what happened, like right when I got to college, where all the teachers got laid off. And like now with all this, like I have so many friends who are encouraging their kids to go into tech, and now they're all getting fired. And to even try for these degrees, again, we're in the United States here, people. Hi. To do a state school in my state, it's almost $100,000 for 4 years.
My community college ends up, I'm taking two classes at a time, 3 credits each, and it ends up being about 900 a semester. And that is considered incredibly cheap. That
That's
is,
insanely expensive. I mean, I'm in California and it's free here. Community college is free here.
I wish.
I know, it's crazy. And like the other thing I really love about my child's like we're talking about access and education, usually I'm bitching. I love this place. Like they have a whole grocery store that's free there. You just have to have a student ID and you can go in and get deodorant, you can get food, you can get like little medicine stuff. Like it's all right there. Like that's
My
when so I've been homeless before, and one of our housing and I don't know how we talk about this now, but like I did not have a place with my name on a lease. I did not have a bed. I did not know when I was going to get food. Like that was a reality for me for a while. And one of the things that these places do is they understand that's a lot of students. And so they have like the first thing I tell people, if you're housing insecure, if you're housing insecure, and you can sign up for one class at like it could be a 0 credit class because it usually is paid by credits. That is the first thing you do when you are worried you might become housing insecure, because they have social workers, lawyers, they have food, they have medicine, like that you can get your teeth checked there, you can get physicals, you can get physical therapy, and a lot of it is like no cost. Like there is nothing smarter than just taking a class or two at your community college for all the resources. It's crazy. But like she gets like all this stuff. Like it's the access they've given is just jaw dropping. And then it's also free,
Yeah, and
which
then
is amazing.
here I am crying in 1,000 a semester to go part time. And my school has a food pantry. So if you're starving, you can go get some expired canned goods.
That's so frustrating.
It's
Like,
only open like once a week too. But and that's one of the cheaper schools in the entire city of Chicago is to go there. And there are much more expensive schools.
oh yeah.
I don't want to dox myself, but like there are like colleges in my area that are, I mean, I know someone who pays for a college here in Chicago that they're paying something like 30 to 50,000 a semester.
Yeah. My cousin had to take out $100,000 loan for her child to go for 1 year at one of and it wasn't a private university. This is a state university, and it was $100,000 for this child to go for a year in, because we have this lovely little thing in my state schools, which is batshit crazy and should be illegal. There's a few things that should be batshit crazy. Like you should not have to put your parents' money. I am no longer legally their thing. They legally do not have to do anything for me. Why do you want to know what they make? That's insane.
And
Then there's the when you're a freshman at these like big schools that are not private, they're state owned, you have to live on campus for the first year as a freshman, which means you now have to pay well above market rate. Like this child is in a room with 4 people and is paying almost double what this child would pay if they had a studio apartment.
and like, I have like my this is not my first time going to school. So I'm a cosmetologist by trade, and
I don't know how you survive cosmetology school with what you have. Like that
it was
that is
it was
amazing to
before
me.
things really ramped up, but I couldn't go back to school until I was 24.
Yeah.
I had to wait until I hit that age of being considered independent, but I moved out of my parents' house at the age of 18, and they wouldn't consider me as an independent on my FAFSA until I was 24 years old because I was unmarried, I didn't have any kids, and I didn't join the military. I think those were like the three exceptions they would give. Oh, and I didn't age out of foster care either. So I didn't
Which
have.
shows you why they do this. This is like why the benefits that you get for getting married, joining the military, having kids, and the other tax that we all have as disabled people is we can't throw our bodies at the solution. So when they're like, well, just
Mhm.
DoorDash, just do this. No, that we physically can't do the things that other people can do to make money in between. And if you're in the middle of trying to get disability accommodations, you legally can't do anything.
No, you cannot. And like it's a matter of like it is so hard when you are like trying to have like even with my like workplace accommodations, I'm very like compared to the average person in my career, I am heavily accommodated at my work. Like I do most of my work seated and it's still not enough. Like I have like I have special attendance things, all of that, but it's still not enough. And here I am on leave because it's so hard on me. And I'm having to take like short term disability, but I also like, I have to be cautious about, even with short term disability, making sure that I'm not ending up with like anything that'll come up as a red flag because all of the companies, like it's been a known thing that I don't know if I don't know what extent they'll surveil me on things like social media. And so it's even when I'm making my silly little TikToks, I'm like, I feel like I have to be careful doing that because I've heard so many stories of people being surveilled in their disability cases. And I don't know how long I'm going to be on this medical leave. Currently, I just spoke to my manager this morning. I was like, I'm hoping I'll be back next month, but it could be longer. Very well, maybe. And I luckily do have long term disability insurance, but at the same time, I have to be careful to balance that so that I'm not ending up with anything that becomes a red flag for me having that long term disability insurance. So I can't go DoorDash. That's not an option because they're going to see
No,
that as another job. And I also don't drive. I can't drive. I don't feel safe driving because I have POTS and can lose consciousness.
there's that.
And
There's
so
that. And as we're talking about these accommodations and being able to take a break from work, it's worse for students because, like, when I was in high school, I had to have major surgery. Arbitrarily, my teachers decided that wasn't their problem, so they weren't going to give me my homework. So I had to miss this time at school for surgery. And then I come back and they're like, that's a you problem. And I failed two of my classes because they would refuse to give me the assignments that I had missed during that time. And the arbitrariness of school is one of the things that I fight so hard for students to have cell phones. And I get yelled at by my friends who are teachers because I left teaching before cell phones. I have not taught to just total transparency. I have not been a teacher since before cell phones were a thing. So I do not know what it's like to teach in that, but I also do know what it's like to be denied life-saving accommodations in school. I know how dangerous schools are from students and from teachers. We absolutely knew which teachers not to stay after with. We knew which teachers not to go in early with. And then I also know, well, and I'm not going to tell that story, but the point being is students are not safe in school. That's just not something that they are. They're not safe. And they are not safe from teachers deciding that their hearing aids are headphones and then ripping out cochlear implants. We are not safe from students whose teachers think that the insulin pump is some sort of new device and ripping an insulin pump out of someone's side. Or a PE teacher decides someone's asthma is not actually a thing and denies them an inhaler. One kid a year seems to die from that every year. I've seen this over and over and over again. So I fight really hard for students to have access to cell phones because as a world, we don't believe kids or women or
and
anyone unless there's video evidence.
even in the case of something along the lines of, let's say that someone has an episode in class or something like that. I have my little medical ID on my watch, but like I also have, and that's also on a smartwatch. That's on the band, but it's on a smartwatch, which in some of these places they'll see that as an issue too.
Yeah.
And then along with that, if you need more detail than what's on my little teeny tiny metal ID that just gives my name, my conditions, and a medication that they need to know about, then it's like, okay, if you need more information than that, it's on my phone. I have a whole medical ID that's properly filled out. And I feel like a lot of us with chronic illnesses do make sure that our little health
Oh, yeah.
medical ID on our phone because you want to make sure that that information is in as many places as possible so no one misses it.
That, and I also don't want to be charged $3,000 to be taken by an ambulance when you could just give me some salt and water.
That's why I have a video that it has between platforms, I think about 300 or 400,000 views at this point, because my coworkers were asking me one day and they were like, "Hey, if you do pass out, like what do we do?" And I was like, "Don't call an ambulance."
Yeah,
And they're
that
like,
one.
"What?" And I was like, "Yeah, like if I'm not injured, if my lips aren't turning blue, just if you want to do something, elevate my feet, you can bring me something salty, some water, and then just leave me alone. I'll be right back." And
Mhm.
then my coworker was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be right back." And they were like, "I'll be right back" is crazy. But like that video went off because it is such a common issue in this country that an ambulance is insanely expensive. And if you don't need one, then it feels so just exhausting and wasteful. And I'm like, if I really need an ambulance or if I really need to go see a doctor, I'll Uber over to the urgent
Yeah.
care that I like, because there's one I like a few blocks from my work. So
You know you're chronically ill when you're like, "Hey, so this urgent care is fire. They have heated blankies, they have respectful people, like
I'm like, this one
chef's
has
kiss, 5 out of 5 stars."
this one, the doctor that took care of me, the IV that they had set up was not running. They tried switching the tubes, they tried switching the bags, they tried everything and it just was not pumping. So they went above and beyond. They took the IV saline flushes and they did 10 of those by hand to just make sure I could get my saline that I needed that day.
And how much were you charged for that saline? Just curious.
So I got lucky. My insurance covered it. I think I went back in like June before my deductible reset over the summer. So I only had to pay my copay, which was
Mhm.
25.
My
Got
god.
so lucky there because they were like, we don't know if it will cover it or not. And I was like, just go for it. If I get a bill, I get a bill. And at that point I was feeling so bad. I was like, and I was going in and out of like heavy brain fog. My girlfriend had somewhere to be and rescheduled where they were going cuz they were helping me get there and they were like trying to, and then they noticed that I just was not coherent enough to be properly advocating well and thinking things through. So they were like, "You know what? I'm going to stay." And I was like, "Thank you." But yeah, so they did, but I think before insurance it would have been like 3 or 400 easily.
Mine was 1,300 per bag.
Yeah.
1,300, but that was excluding the needle sticks. They charged me $900 per stick and then 1,300 per bag.
Oh
And I
man.
hadn't met my deductible is 6,000. So I hadn't met my deductible yet.
I
Yeah.
am very grateful that my insurance deductible is only 1250.
My
So
god.
I
Can't even imagine.
I I got very lucky. I have a PPO and I have a really low deductible compared to so many people. Um, and so I am so grateful for this. That said, God, do we need universal health care?
So badly. Yeah, I just got into a fight with someone about this and they're like, "Free healthcare." I'm like, "No, I pay taxes. What do you want your taxes to pay for?" Like, that's the question. When we're talking
Um,
about education, when we're talking about healthcare, we're already paying an insane amount of money in taxes, like insane. So, what do you want them to pay for? I would like them to pay for education and healthcare and good roads. Like, that would be great.
well, mine are going to giving Israeli people health care and bombing
Yeah,
Palestinian children as God intended.
obviously. Obviously. My God.
Please,
I like
listeners, know I am being so
we are
facetious right
being
now.
free Palestine, fuck ICE.
Yes,
Yeah, there you
exactly.
go. Yeah. So I'm so tired. But like we're talking about really important things, and one of the things I really want to underline for people, because I see people who are like, look how cheap it is to live in this state. Look, I could afford so much over here. It's like, okay, but I need, for the love of all that's unholy in this world, can you look up the laws in the state first? Because if you want to get an education, if you want to work, like we're talking about work accommodations, I know this is about schooling, but it's pretty close. The thing is at will states, they could just be done with you. Like, no, you're
Yep.
gone. But I did
It's
want to talk about transportation real quick because that's a real
yeah.
big issue of getting kids to and from school. Like even like for my side of it when my kids were little, trying to get them to school was a nightmare for me. Like driving, trying to get up that early, trying to get these little humans to do the you're basically dragging around like have you seen the ham cat on TikTok? Like little like demon cat that's
Yes.
the cutest and it like growls at you while you're trying to feed it and like ripping apart your arms. But imagine if that cat was like 40 to 80 pounds of toddler or like kindergartner trying to get them to eat dressed out the door. So from the parents' perspective, it was brutal and hard. From a kid's perspective, the fact that we make these kids get up so early to go to school is batshit crazy. And every medical marker shows us this is the wrong thing to do. Very, very bad. As a student, I had the hardest time with I had POTS, but they said it was hypoglycemia, so I had to try to eat in class, trying to convince teachers that you want this instead of passing out. Whole another issue. The issue of like when I was in college, my hands didn't work. I have Ehlers-Danlos. Wasn't diagnosed with it yet, but we didn't have laptops back then. Back in the Stone Ages, we rode the mammoths to college, and the laptops that were existing were 10 pounds. So imagine trying to like carry on 10 pounds of computer. And I wasn't allowed to do it. My friend was, but I couldn't do it. And so we had to write a 5-page paper in an hour with a pencil. And like when I tell you, I had to like pull the pencil out of my hand.
My wrist would
Total
just
nightmare.
my
Yeah,
wrist would stop.
it was brutal.
I'll sometimes just have to put a splint on for a few hours just to kind of let it settle because I did that earlier today because I was talking to my roommate and I rested my head on my hand the wrong way for a second, and then my wrist just from my like knuckles down to like onto my forearm just struck with pain so fast. I was like, "Oh no, what have I done?" And so I was like they were like and my roommate, she was like, "Do you need to go grab a brace?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yes, I would. Yeah,
Yep.
and then it's also can you afford the bracing? Do you
Yeah.
have the ability to make these accommodations in your schools? And then the biggest thing is if you're a wheelchair user. When you have stadium seating or when you have no desk because there's not a desk where you can
Mhm.
wheel up to, they're just these little torture contraptions of the desk included in these share. Oh my God, I still have nightmares from like how bad my back and my arms would hurt at the end of that. So you're balancing like whatever you're writing on your lap. It's insane, especially with stadium seating where you're like now a fire safety risk at the like landing level.
I would have to like when I had my rollator last semester, one of my classes had stadium seating, and I would have to park my rollator and then like climb up like the first two stairs and get into a seat. And I'm very grateful for the privilege I was able to do that because there are people who can't.
Yeah.
Like, luckily, this wasn't like a note taking heavy kind of class, but it was a pretty intensive class where you still had to be participating, and it's awkward enough to park a mobility aid at the front of a class filled with like 18 to 22-year-olds. Imagining having to be completely separate from them too, because you are now put on an island kind of. You are now isolated from the people in your class when you have to sit completely separate from them because you can't do the stadium seating. And
Yeah. And
that's
then
a
what about
struggle.
your safety?
Yeah.
Like when you're like talking about a classroom where it's going to be hard for you to get to your device, what if there's an active, like, we're going to say pew pew, really? What if there's like like when the action is like talking about it becomes more censored than the actual action? I'm so tired. But like, how are you supposed to get anywhere? How is your safety any level of priority? And when you're in schools where the infrastructure has been ignored for decades, what if the elevator isn't working? What if there's a power outage? How are you going to get this person to safety in any of these situations?
And the elevator in my school, oh my goodness, it would take the longest time to get
Oh
to
my God.
me
Yeah.
because there were two elevators in total for the school. They were both right next to each other. The buttons only triggered that specific elevator for whatever reason instead of the reasonable thing of having one call button for it, and it calls whichever is closer and on its way. And then it would sometimes be that you had whichever one you selected, hoping that you're not taking up one that like you're not taking up both of them at the same time, basically. You might have to wait until it went to like the basement and you're on the third floor.
Oh my God. Yes.
And
Yeah.
then it is like the world's slowest moving elevator also along with that, and you're like someday. And so like when you are thinking of like the possibility of having an emergency, and my school did have me mark whether I needed assistance evacuating. I do believe I have to, I think I actually need to update that, but
Might be good. Yeah.
I think I need to update that because I am in the process of trying to get a wheelchair. And so that's something that
Yay.
I'm in the process. I have right now, I am supposed to pick up a temporary use one from like a local lending closet coming this coming week. And then I have the neurologist that I'm seeing on the 23rd, and we'll be trying to get the ball rolling on that. So hopefully that is in the near future for me.
Oh, we're going to do a whole episode on as you learn what the different ones are and what's. Don't buy anything until we have that episode, though. Okay,
Oh,
promise me.
absolutely.
Because I spent $12,000 I did not need to spend for what is now a very expensive paperweight. Because you know what you can't do when you have Ehlers-Danlos? Push a chair.
And like absolutely, yeah. My minimum power assist. I know that. Like minimum of power assist if not power chair.
I would highly recommend the Will, the
Yeah.
WHILL. That is the one. I've done so much research on this. But like if you're listening to you're like, I can't wait for this person to do the episode. Here's the thing. There are transportation chairs. That's when your insurance is going to send you. Please don't let them. That is not helpful to you. Yeah.
I think
And
you
then
told
there's
me that before
yeah,
too.
because that's what they tried to do to me. I called them like, and oh, by the way, your doctor will never, ever, ever, ever tell you need to use a wheelchair unless you're missing your legs.
Yep.
Unless you do not actually have a leg, I promise you, they will never tell you to do it. You're the one who's going to have to say, I need a wheelchair, and they will not know any of what I'm going to say. No, the push chairs, the regular push chairs, those will rock your shoulders and your arms. They will give you some great Linda Hamilton muscles, but you're going to pull out your arms. If you try to get any of those axle things or the smart drives, please know you will end up in a wall or in the middle of those are so unsafe. I cannot tell you how unsafe those. I ended up in a brick wall and almost in a lake once. Like those are so unsafe.
I
They're
know you
not
told
good.
me before I was not allowed to get smart drive.
Yeah, no, please. They're actually on a recall right now. I cannot believe this
Wow.
company has been allowed to exist. Like they charge $6,000 for this device that you clip onto your wheelchair to kill you, basically.
Oh my god.
I mean, I just a shortcut to it all. If you have Ehlers-Danlos, you do not want to have like the joystick. It's basically an office chair on a lawnmower with like a joystick. You do not want those. You will fall over and the stick is going to kill your wrist. Honestly, I've done so much research on all this. It's the Will. It's WHILL. They are fourth. I think they start 2,000. Do not get that one. That their lowest cost one is not good. Every wheelchair person will tell you no. It's the middle ground one. I think they're $4,000, but they have payment plans. It's the only one that actually works well and safely. There's a new company that's come out that looks really good, but they're not delivering yet.
Yeah, I'll have to like, yeah, I'll definitely be keeping up on.
Sure, train your own service dog. That will go well.
The cat, he is sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the cat person wins on this discussion. I love my little boy, but man, he is when they told me I was too sick to train my own service dog, my inability to hear that is definitely going to be my downfall.
Yeah, what? Too sick to do something? Me? Never.
What? No. No, because I
No.
got 3 good days in a row. And what did I do? I applied for a PhD program because that sounds like a great plan. Obviously, I finally cracked this illness thing, and with some like yoga and some like positive thinking and water, I've got this.
I
No,
got I got like one good day a couple weeks ago, and I went to my roommate and I was like, we should have a housewarming party, and
we
just
should
started
totally do that. Yeah.
and like
Why
started
wouldn't you?
planning with a number of times. I'll start planning something so big. I had like one good day recently, and I started planning a whole cross country road trip with my girlfriend, and I was like, and then like I go on leave the
On
next
second
week.
thought, yeah. My husband has this down. Like my husband has his like he knows this routine. I actually just did a video about this morning on TikTok because I really think this is an American thing. We have been so convinced that we have to earn every good thing that if we have a good day, we think that we've earned it, which means we've done something. So then we go into forensics and we like break down everything we've done to see if there is something that maybe could have contributed to this. Like
Mm-hmm.
causality is obviously not a thing. We earned this fucking good day and we can keep doing that thing. Yeah. So my
Oh,
husband just looks
absolutely.
at me. He goes, so we're going to apply for PhD programs again, huh? Okay, absolutely. You do that, honey. I'm supporting you. And when inevitably the next day I am like looking like a dead bug in the bed, like just I give in. He's like, okay, are we letting that one go? Yes, and remind me next time. No, I will not. I learned that lesson 10 years ago.
I think
No.
about like once a week I'll start like looking into another program for like something I might be interested, like very surface level interested
Uh-huh.
in pursuing. And then I'm like, no, like, within a
What was
day,
I
I'm like,
thinking? Yeah.
I can't do that. Like, oh, like I have to, like, what was one I was thinking of recently?
Sorry, Lake is getting smacked in the face with a tail because, like, the cat the whole time that my dog was barking was looking like obviously superior being. I don't know what that thing is in the background barking, and then immediately stands up, goes like a little butthole to the camera, and then just smacks like right across the face with the tail. I am living for this.
That
Please
was
feel free to watch
good.
this on YouTube. That was.
That was so good. That's my boy. That's Cooper. But yeah, I think I was looking at, oh yeah, I was recently back when I was like 20. I did a like small like 12-week phlebotomy program to draw blood at a hospital. And that's like I looked into, I was like, is there any way I can like reinstate that certification? And then I was like thinking about it and thinking about it, I was like, no, I can't do that. Like
No, yeah.
I need to get off my feet. That is a job that is still on your feet. And
And
then
weirdly, a lot of the jobs are on your feet, like jobs that don't need to be.
yeah. And then
Just
every
to
time I have
prove
a
you can
good
suffer.
day, my goodness, almost every time I have a good day, I'm like, this one salon is hiring.
Yeah, that'll go well.
Yeah,
Why
absolutely.
wouldn't it? I mean, like, the thing is like, I've yet to meet a lazy disabled person. I have never
We all want to
once
be doing something.
so badly. Like, and we're all like, even if we're stuck in bed, we're usually helping the community. Like, even if we're not earning dollars, we are doing immense labor to help with community stuff. I don't know who these people are who think that we are like eating bonbons, doing nothing, like just sucking the system dry. Like, that's other people. We know which people they are. They're the ones who are in charge. They're making the laws because they themselves do not have an interest in helping society. So therefore they're legislating with this idea that we all need to be controlled because they can't control themselves. It's like the ones who say that being gay is a choice. It's like that's because you made that choice.
Yep, that's
And by the way, you still aren't straight. Just letting you know, just in case you were like curious at all. If you think it's being a choice, it's because you made a choice that didn't actually change anything.
it's I swear most of the time it's a man and every time I'm just thinking, so you want to kiss boys.
Yeah, every time. Every time. I'm so tired. I am so tired.
Which politician is it who's had like a roommate for like 20 years or something like that? I
Lindsey
think it's
Graham?
yeah. And I'm like, interesting.
I'm just I'm just so tired of the people who are in charge of things. This happens especially in education, where they're like, I actually just had a conversation with one of my friends who's a professor, and I was like, hey, what do you think about all the AI stuff going down? And he was like, oh, it's horrible, it's evil, it's terrible. Like, I just don't understand. Like, you're paying for college. Why don't you want to learn? And I was like, that's a really interesting viewpoint, and I totally hear you. And I was just gonna let it go there. To let the record show, I was not gonna jump on a soapbox, but he asked my opinion, which is never a good idea. Don't ever, no, I will not shut the fuck up. And it's like, I hear you and I think you definitely are making a point, but I don't think you're correct in a lot of cases. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, when I was in college, I worked two jobs, three sometimes, and I commuted 2 hours a day to get to those jobs and to school and back home. And for the last part of it, I was raising a child by myself while I was working multiple jobs and going to school. So I don't necessarily think that looking at these students thinking they're bad people versus I know when you went to college, you didn't do anything else but go to college and that was paid for. So I don't think you might be, I don't think you are the person who, he's one of the most amazing people. I love this man. He is like my brother, but he also has had a very different life. And I don't, I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I think that you've been trained by the world to not be curious about other people's experiences. I'm sorry. It just seems to be like even the men I love, and I love a lot of men. I have so many guy friends, but it
That
always
makes one
just,
of us.
I've been very lucky. Like every man in my life is either my husband, my son, or my brother, like my best friend. Like I love these guys, but I'm also shocked at how not curious they are. Like how the fuck did you go through your entire life and never ask what it was like for someone else to exist? Like how? But it was the thing that we just started talking about. And like, the fact is that these people are often on scholarships. And if they don't get that grade, they're going to be removed from school. And then they might lose their visas. They might lose their housing. There's a lot on the line that would be very hard to understand from someone who never had to wonder where they were going to put their head down. Then
And
you have the exhaustion of working multiple jobs while going to school. Like, this is not the 90s.
And a lot of these professors didn't have to do that and they didn't have to work while going to school. And it's one of those situations where I'm sure I would be an A student if I didn't
If
have
you
to
had nothing
work.
else to worry about, yeah.
Like if I didn't have anything, if I was in better health and didn't have to hold a job still, because between the two of those, it's tough. It's tough out here. And then on the like, it's like, I mean, my goodness, I was in the middle of moving towards the end of this last semester because that was in December that I moved. So it was the week of finals that I was
Oh
also moving.
God.
My goodness, I am going to try to never do that again.
Oh,
That
sweetie.
I would like to never do that again, actually. I'm glad that I got out of my old place because it was not an accessible apartment. I needed out of there. There were some major issues. I emailed them when I vacated and I was like, fucking try me.
Yeah.
This is uninhabitable. I actually
I
used
still
the
think
word
you should sue. I still think you should absolutely like every every city, by the way, everyone has housing authority. At least most cities and most states have housing authorities. If you go there, it is free legal help. Like you can just go in with all of your stacks of paperwork and go help me, and they will for
yeah.
free.
I'll have to look into that and see if I have like enough
Just go to
evidence
your library.
collected.
Go to
Yeah.
your local library and say, I need housing help with law, and they will help you find your housing authority. And then you just go in with your emails and all your receipts, and you're like, here you go. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the extra money could not hurt. And I think
Right.
that the only way through inequity is lawsuits. I think that this is how we start doing this. And they've convinced so many of us that we don't deserve the seat at the table, that we're just so grateful we're there. But I think if we start actually actively suing schools and universities that are not upholding the AD, and I know we're dealing with an administration that does not give a fuck, but our laws still do. And we are
Oh
watching
yeah.
these people lose all the time in courts. So if we tie them up, it will eventually get to the point where, like, people, nothing changes. People's systems, nothing changes until the pain point of continuing is worse than the pain point of fixing it and moving. And the only pain point they seem to understand is capitalism.
Yeah, before going on leave, like I even was like talking to my management at my work and I was like, we really need to make sure that these aisles are wide enough our in our workspace because in all honesty, it would probably be a good idea to just get a meter stick or a yardstick or whatever and
Mm-hmm.
walk through and make sure that that yardstick can make it through. And there's so many places in Chicago. It is so guilty here of not following those accessibility laws. I understand
Oh,
where,
California too. I
yeah,
live in an area that should be like paradise, and it is the
yeah.
worst.
I understand how it happens because these spaces are itty bitty. It's a major city. You're trying to pack as much as you can. Well, I'm sorry. It sounds like you need to lessen your inventory a little bit
Just a little.
because if your customers can't get in the door, that's a problem. It's I mean, I saw a video recently by a large creator on TikTok, I think. She was talking about she was doing a skit playing out how she had gone to a shop wanting to go and buy a coat, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Well, we could bring things out to you." She's like, "Well, I would like to go inside."
Yeah.
And like they just
That's the
didn't even have.
conversation I've had every time.
Yeah.
Every time has been, I'll just show you things. Like that's I could literally go on the internet. Thank you. No.
And they make things like temporary ramps that you can just put out when you need them and stuff like that. And they're not prohibitively expensive. I've seen them.
Yeah.
They're not so expensive that you couldn't even imagine
So
buying
one of
them.
the things, like as we're talking about like disability and access that I'm thinking about right now is that when we're talking about jobs and when you're getting things like becoming a lawyer or the jobs where you actually have to intern places. So I interviewed the most amazing person. I've got to check back in with her. It's been a minute since Twitter became whatever the it is now. I have not gotten to talk to her, but she is someone who was born with only one limb, basically. So she was born with like multiple missing limbs and wanted to be a lawyer and could not had the hardest time finishing off because to finish your degree, you have to intern. And they were like, you have to be able to pick up 50 pounds. Like, why as a lawyer do I need to be able like because you have to pick up the files? But she's like, that's just not a possibility. And then I've talked
As if
to, I'm
there's
sure
not other people there.
right? And then like being a hairdresser, I'm sure you've seen like salons that were upstairs or that did not have any level of accessibility. Like the some of the salons I'm thinking of is so thin in like space. It's super like you could reach out and touch walls and there's no way a wheelchair could get through there. So it's already limiting so many people to be able to do those internships, which are hard to find. And also we can discuss the inequity of internships anytime you want, and that you have to the only way to be an intern is to be wealthy already. Like you're off it should be illegal. This
Oh
is
my goodness.
not okay. But just saying, like, if you have to, you now as a disabled person, even if you can do the job eventually in ways that would work, you're kind of stuck.
You have to get through that piece. And then also, so many places just want, they just don't like the optics of someone with a mobility aid and they'll discriminate based on that. Even when I was looking at apartments, because I am able to move around without a mobility aid, it just isn't always the best. But because I can manage it, I was literally packing away my folding cane into my purse while I walked up to places before I could see the leasing agent so that I would lessen my chances of discrimination. And like, there's still other things they can find if they really don't want to rent to me. But that was even something I discussed with my roommate. And I was like, yeah, I don't want them to think that I won't be able to pay my rent. And so,
There's so many, like we could do a whole episode on housing for education. What are some like we had solutions during COVID.
yeah.
We actually had ways that we could get real education. One of the things I don't understand that we don't still do, we should be doing, is I do think every classroom should have a camera and that every single classroom should be every class should be recorded, and if you are a member of that class you would have a password so that if you have the flu, like remember being a kid and you get like the flu for 2 months or
And
like
then
for a few
everybody
weeks
gets
and
it.
then everyone's sick. So why like what I'm trying to say is like as people are like, oh well it's just I'm not, this affects you too and it'll
Yeah.
affect your kids. So why would your like especially in high school where like they're taking physics, they're taking classes I certainly couldn't help with. Like once we got past algebra 2, I peace out, can't do it. I'm so sorry, honey, mommy's not smart enough.
Oh, you got
But
algebra 2 down? Whew, I'm
that was it.
impressed.
That was where I was done. I could not. But why wouldn't we have every single classroom recorded where students would be able to, if they're sick for a day or two, not miss the whole class, where they could just
Yeah.
watch it and then email the teacher? There's so many reasons to protect the teachers, to protect the students. We should have video evidence of each class, and that would definitely take a step back on the cell phone need as well. And then
Yeah.
when we're talking about chat GPT and all this other stuff, why wouldn't you as a teacher, instead of doing a written test, why don't you just do a sit down? Like just the whole, like my child went to Montessori high school and I loved it because it was competency. Were you competent? And if you could prove competency, which they let the kids do in whichever way they wanted to do. If you want to take a test, you could take a test. If you want to write a paper, you could write a paper. Presentation, do a presentation. It was, and it worked. Like the kids really showed they were competent and understood each thing. So I feel like if we moved to sort of a model like that, we wouldn't have to worry so much about about if these kids were using AI or not. And then I think that there's some interesting tools out now that could be very helpful. Now, I hate generative AI with a flaming passion, but I'm about harm reduction. And there
Yep.
is an aspect of this generative AI that could be tremendously helpful for people with visual disturbances or with audio disturbances, where you can record lectures and then you can search for the word that was used. If you like had a brain fog moment, you're like, okay, what do you say about mitochondria? And you could type that in and it will show up. Like you can use that and learn in whichever way you want. And I do think that those tools hold value.
And I consider myself as someone who, like, I consider myself pretty staunchly anti AI. Like, I don't like to use it, I don't want to use it. But my school gave me a note taking software. And there were a couple days that I needed to record my lectures because I was having bad brain fog and I could
No.
physically get myself to school, but I needed to record them. And it's so much easier to have a transcript. And it
Yeah.
had a thing where it could transcript the lecture. And I didn't love using that because it was AI and I minimized my use of it. But at the same time, it was kind of the only option that I had to be able to comprehend what was discussed in my class that day and be able to like mentally like get through that. And so like I am rather like as someone who is very anti AI, I don't like generative AI at all. And I understand that there's other types, but generative AI generally like yeah. How many words can I use with Jen in one sentence?
We're on a record breaking thing
Yeah.
here.
And so yeah, so like just generative AI is like something that I do not want to use and I warn against using it, but they are integrating it everywhere and you are left without other options if you need a feature. And it's insane to me that I have to use generative AI to get that transcript because I know just a few years ago that I was still able to do text to speech without the use of generative or speech to text without the use of generative AI on other platform kind of thing, on other like media and other like software programs that I've had in the past. So I don't really understand why now we must insert it into the software.
The CES this year was just such a jaw-droppingly depressing, and I love CES. I'm obsessed. I want to go so badly. Like that's a bucket list item for me. But AI was in hair trimmers. And you're like, what the other and toasters? Really? Really?
Like
But
why?
like right? But like with generative AI, I think like in our country we're very like all or nothing. Like either we go balls to the wall or nothing at all. Like it's very weird where we could just do harm reduction, which I think is a really important thing. There are some tools that are really important for some people. There's other people who don't need those tools. So maybe like, we don't beat ourselves up if we really need to use this for note taking. That's a very different experience than like using Grok to undress underage people. Like that's a very different use case. And there's, there where the law fails us, we might have to step in with our own, it's a weird word, ethics. And we sort of make decisions on what's actually really important and needed. There's parametered AI that is doing incredible work with figuring out where cancers are, where the next pandemic is going to hit. These are AI uses that I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a really good use. We just don't need to hand it to everyone so they can
Yeah.
make Mickey Mouse do horrible things to Donald Duck. Like these are not like
Yeah, like there's so
use
many
case.
people. I mean, the number of, I mean, my own father uses AI to critically think for him. Like post Charlie K. Kirk
I'm so
passing.
sorry. I
His
am so sorry.
little moment there. My father made a post talking about how he's been using he was like there's a lot of this and that blah blah blah. I don't talk to my father, but my grandmother sent me the screenshot cuz she's wonderful. Linda's an icon. So yeah, she sent me the screenshot and he's going on about how he's been using Chat GPT, the paid version, which I didn't even
Oh,
know
good.
that there was a paid version.
Sam
But
Altman has done the best grift and cup and ball routine I've ever seen. Like, this is magic scale. Like,
he was like
wow.
using this to be like, I'm in the center and I'm very purple and I use Chat GPT to tell me if a meme is misleading or if a post has a certain spin on it. And I'm like, You're supposed to be able to do that on your own.
I mean, just to let everyone know, you can get Ground News for free. They have a paid version, but you can get Ground News that's free. You can also use Snopes, which is it's been a very good website. But I love Ground News because they tell you what the different headlines are by whether they're center, left, or right. And then they'll tell you if you have like a blind spot. There are so many ways to do this.
Like
But
ChatGPT can be programmed to say whatever. So if they want to tell you that something has a spin, then they can program that. And it's like,
we've seen Grok like lose its poor little mind, like trying to like be like, yes, I need to be smart, but I also need to overlords. It's just kind of wild to watch that all go down. And when we're talking about education, it's really important to think about who's coding this stuff. Because, when we're looking at what history is, when we're looking at what we know for a fact, and then we find out that we've basically been living through that filter for, the last few hundred years. There was definitely a very like, yeah, sorry, I'm very interested in anthropology and history. Like, I'm
yeah.
freaking fascinated by it. But like, this is how hunter gatherers are, and then we like build an entire society understanding what that is, and then we find out through like actual DNA that all of that was wrong. All of that was not true. So education can have real upsides with AI, especially in underserved areas where we could actually get at least a baseline of education in. But yeah, it's been done badly, and we are over an hour, so I am going to call it before you and I both start crying while we're trying to talk and pretend like we are actual people who have don't have bones falling out of our body. But hopefully you'll be back next time and we'll talk. I think we're going to talk about like the entertainment industry and
I think we have like a
accessibility.
dozen topics off to the
There's
side.
so many topics. All right. Well, I adore talking to you. I'm so glad you're in a better place for you. I was really worried where you were living. That's
Oh my goodness. I'm
not
so
tenable.
glad.
But tell me
Absolutely.
how
Thank
school
you.
goes. I'm very curious.
Yes.
And we'll talk soon.
Yes. Talk soon.
All right. Be kind, be gentle, whatever likes like to be fierce. And I believe your lake is a cryptid on TikTok. Yeah. So I'll also have it in the show notes too.
Wonderful. Yay.